Yeah, we can grab some of that.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, it's popular.
Hi. But yeah, I know what you're talking
Hello, Linda. Oh, hi. Oh, not a problem. I was really very happy to help. Anytime. Listen, let's get together. Oh, a party? In the city? No, I'm really not in the mood for it, if that's okay. Okay, well, we'll get together at your house when it's all ready. Terrific. All right, I'll see you later. Good, bye-bye. That was Linda, an old friend of mine. She had just moved in. I had just helped her move in with her boyfriend into her new home, her first new house. She was very excited about it. And she was inviting me to a party that night down in the city, down in Philadelphia. But I wasn't in the mood for it. It was 1978, I think. I was a 36-year-old bachelor and living in an apartment by myself and not really happy about all that. I decided I really didn't want to go downtown. I didn't want to go to a party where I had to be clever and have conversation with people and be snappy and say, where do you work, where do you live, and that sort of stuff. I had been there and done that, and I didn't want to go there again. I was looking actually for something a little bit more authentic in my life, and it was really nowhere to be found. I couldn't find it. But I did stop and think about it, and I said, maybe I should go downtown, because what else am I going to do? Sit at home on a Saturday night again and watch TV? So I didn't want to really do that. So I called Linda back and we agreed that we would meet somewhere downtown and we'd go into the party together, all right? So when we walked into the party, I have to admit that I was a little bit on edge. I really didn't want, part of me did not really want to be there. And so, but I did wear nice clothes and I wore my cowboy hat that I had worn in my travels through Europe. And that was nice. So I walked into the party with them and it was actually kind of a nice party. There was a little bit soft jazz playing in the background and some people standing talking to one another. But I did stay real close to Linda and her boyfriend. So I was in the party, staying really close. And at some point I looked over on the left-hand side and I saw this little bump out room. And in the bump out room was some nice food, some snacks and things. I said, okay, let me break away from Linda and her boyfriend and go do something. So I walked over to the table and I picked up a plate and I reached over with my right hand pick up, I think they were Swedish meatballs. And so I reached over and all of a sudden someone brushed against my arm. And I looked up. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to introduce you to Mariah, all right? Here's something that she wrote about that meeting many years later. When he walked into the room, I knew it. I told my girlfriend not to go near him, he's mine. I'd heard that sometimes that's how it happens. There was a magnetic spark or Mercury stopped going into retrograde or something. Maybe I was just lucky, but I knew it. Ron was devilishly handsome. 36-year-old cigar-smoking bachelor who I found out later knew no one in the room except the couple he came in with. He was alone, yet moved through the room with confidence and an aura of presence. The cowboy hat he walked in with didn't hurt either. Who was this guy, I wanted to know. He hung out with his friends at first, and when he went over to the snack table, I saw my chance. The snack table was of the nicer party kind, Swedish meatballs, Boursin cheese. And as I was reaching for the meatballs, I was there and gently nudged his elbow as I was reaching for the vegetables. Without looking, he asked me, what was I doing there? I said that at the moment I was touching his arm. His meatballs now firmly in place. He looked up, stared me straight in the eye and said, has anyone ever told you you're manipulative? I told you I was not in a good mood. Without pause, I said, yes, they have, and I am. he was the one. That was Mariah. Bold, very self-assured, and beautiful, and a little crazy. So after that, we actually sat on a windowsill for the rest of the evening, just talking and talking and talking, until finally I said, listen, I'm a beer drinker, and they've run out of beer at this party, so I'm going out and find some beer, some six-packs in the neighborhood and bring them back. Would you like to go for a walk? She said, no, but I'll be here when you get back. So I came back. That is how it all began. That's how it all began. It was a whirlwind, an absolute whirlwind. We wanted nothing but to be with one another. I was living in Germantown at the time, and she was in Langhorne at the time, and she was living on a 2.5 acre, kind of a farmette with 2 horses, a pony, and a Dalmatian named Pedro. So back and forth and back and forth, we went. It was really worth it, because she was someone who I could really enjoy being with at the time. She was a psychotherapist. She was treating people. It was really nice. She was giving talks. There was even an article in the paper about her recently, about a workshop she had done. And the workshop was called How Hungry Am I and For What? Was her workshop. So it was very exciting. So we got together, and this was a whole new world for me. It really was. So we would laugh together, we would cook together, we would spend some time, some quiet nights together, and we talked a whole lot. We talked a lot. And she told me a lot of things. She opened herself up to me, which was really nice. And later on, she told me that the reason she could do that was because she trusted me, and that felt really good. And I trusted her. I trusted her. I hadn't been trusting many people lately. And so that was really very good. I think I had finally found my place. I knew there was a place for me somewhere. I didn't know where it was, but I think I'd finally found my place. I think I finally found my place. Well, for a little while anyway. So maybe about 3-4 months later, I backed away. This was a little bit much for me, you know. There were differences. I mean, she was this woman out there as a therapist saving the world, and I was a photographer taking stilted pictures of corporate executives for their annual reports. So there were differences. I came from South Philly. South Philly, it was a blue-collar, very solid blue-collar neighborhood in Philadelphia. And I went to a Catholic grade school. I went to a Catholic high school. And when we got out of high school in those days, we weren't going to go to college. No one talked to us about college. What we were looking for was a really good job. We were looking for a job that paid well up front, maybe had 2 weeks vacation right away, that would be good, and a pension. I mean, that's really all we were looking for. And no one talked to us about college or anything like this. And the job that was available at that time was a toll collector on the Walt Whitman Bridge. It was a good job. So I was in high school in my senior year, and a priest came up to me and he said, "Hey, Ron," he said, "where are you going to college?" I said, "I'm not going to college. I don't have any money." You know, no one ever talked to us about college. He said, he looked at me kind of incredulously. He said, "Well, listen, come back to my office and let's just come back, I'll show you some things." So I did. I went back to his office and he laid out all this paperwork stuff, and I looked at it and he said, "Just fill all this out, it's all scholarships." So I said, okay. So I filled it all out and sent it in, and oh my goodness, I won a scholarship to Villanova University. Oh, that's kind of nice, right? So I came back to the priest and I said, "Listen, I got one scholarship, what do I take? I don't know anything about college." So he looks up my grades and he said, "Well, you had really good math marks. Why don't you become an engineer?" I said, "Okay, I'm going to become an engineer." I had no clue what an engineer was. Nothing. Okay? So that was exciting, but what I didn't tell you, by the way, is what I won the scholarship for. So you ready for this one? I'm going to tell you what I want it for, but you have to promise. Everyone has to promise not to tell anyone else. Is that all right? Okay. In 1960, I was Teenager of the Year in Philadelphia. I was. Now, Mariah, on the other hand, Mariah was, she went to a private grade school. She went to a private college, grade school, high school, and college. All of her friends had went to major colleges like Georgetown and Harvard. One of her friends was actually the son of a governor of Pennsylvania. Her mother was the first woman realtor on the main line of Philadelphia. And she was also a DAR, a daughter of the American Revolution, and a debutante. So there were these differences. And I told Mariah about them, and she wasn't happy about it, that I felt like I needed some space. I'm not sure that this is the right thing to do. So we agreed that we would spend a little bit of time together. But the differences between us were really not the reason that I felt I need to back away. The reason was much deeper than that, actually. The reason was my father. My father was an angry man. Being around my father was like being around an unexploded bomb. And we used to, in the house, we would kind of walk around the perimeter of any room that he was in to get away from his ire. But as far as I ever saw, he was never any good to my mother. I never saw him give her a hug. I never saw him give her a peck on the cheek. I never saw him give her a flower, a rose, or a birthday cake. I never saw him take her out to dinner, ever. I never saw them go to the movies. I never saw that. That was the lens that I was looking through being a husband. That's what I grew up with. This was my normal. That's what I saw. But now I was with Mariah, and I didn't want to hurt her. I mean, I wouldn't hurt her physically, because that's not who I was. But I didn't want to back away from her and hurt her, as I had done with other women in my life. So I stayed in my apartment for a couple weeks, just trying to figure this out, what I wanted to really do. And then I remembered that something had happened to me that in my excitement about Mariah, I had totally forgotten about. Years earlier, my mother died, and I got that phone call. And I was on my way over to the house, and I was remembering some little things about our relationship. And one of the things I remembered was that I would go over to her house, especially around Christmas time, and she would put those 4 little candles up on the mantelpiece, the little angels with the candles, little angels, and they spelled Noel, right? And so if she wasn't there, I would actually switch it to Leon. So she knew I was there. So she'd come home and know that I was there. So I went over to the house, and there's a row house in South Philadelphia. And those row houses are about 17 feet wide, and I'm guessing they go back around maybe 60 feet or so. So when I went into the house, my relatives were in the back kitchen, way in the back. So I went out to see them, said hello, whatever. And I was sitting there, and I said to myself, I don't think anyone has contacted my brother George now about my mother's death. So my brother George lived on the West Coast. He was the firstborn, and he had a really special relationship with my mother. So I said, I need to call George. So I walked over to a phone. Now the phone was in the kitchen, but it was one of those things on the wall, and then it had that kind of cord that goes down forever, those things. So I picked up the phone, and I went in the other room, and I called my brother George. Well, he was really upset, of course, and so he was on the phone, and he's crying, and I'm crying, and it was a very special moment for us. I don't know if you've experienced that, but when you tell someone something like that at that moment, there's like a bond that's happening. And just then my father comes over. And my father walks over and he says to me, "Get off the phone." I said, "Well, I'm talking to George and letting him know that Mom died," and he's very upset. He said, "Well, get off the phone, I'm waiting for a call from the undertaker," and walked away. I said, "Okay." So I got back on the phone with George, and within a minute, my father walked back. And he came over to me, and I'm on the phone with George, and he grabs my arm, really harsh. And he comes closer this time. And he said, "I told you to get off the phone." And I looked at him, and I said, "Take your hand off of my arm." And he did. He slowly took it off my arm and walked away. Now, that was a very special moment in one way, I guess, because I had never really confronted my father. But that's not what came out of that moment. What came out of that moment was I finally saw, it was clear as a bell to me, I was not my father. I could never be my father. I could never be that bully. I could never be that uncompassionate, uncaring, that cold. I could never be that. That was the moment that opened up my life. There was awareness that came to me. And I said to myself, how did I carry that with me? That awareness, all these years, it was controlling my life. And now I got it, and I said, oh my goodness, I need to call Mariah. Right? I need to call Mariah. So, this is the way we did it in those days. Hello, Mariah. Oh, I'm really missing you a lot. Is there any way you can come over for dinner? I'll make you a really nice dinner, and we can chat about our relationship. I knew she loved to talk about relationships. Tomorrow night? That would be wonderful. That'd be great. Come on over tomorrow night. That'd be great. All right, love you. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. So Mariah came over the next night. And yeah, we talked about our relationships, and we talked about how much we cared about one another. It was really kind of nice. It was nice. And then I made my move. I sang her this song. So I think this was about 44 years ago. I sang her this song. Lady, my sweet lady, do the tears belong to me? Did you think our time together was all gone? Lady, you've been dreaming. Well, I'm as close as I can be. And our time has just begun. Lady, are you happy? I'm forgetting the words. Lady, are you happy? I'm going to refer to it. Believe it or not, it really did. Lady, are you happy? Do you feel the way I feel? You want to sing it with me? Yeah. Lady, are you happy? Do you feel the way that I feel? Are there meetings that you've never known before? Lady, my sweet lady, well, I can't believe that it's true. It's like I've never ever loved before. Well, close your eyes and rest your weary mind. I promise I'll stay right here beside you. Today our lives were joined, became entwined. And I wish that you could know how much I love you. Lady, my sweet lady, lady, my sweet lady, well, lady, my sweet lady. That, my friends, is when it all began. That, my friends, is when it all began. So for the next 2 years, we were just humming along. We were humming along. We were in love. And you remember all those differences that I told you about? Well, they were because I had actually put Mariah up on a pedestal in my life. But after being with Mariah and after talking with her so much, there's so much that I didn't know. What I didn't know was that both of Mariah's parents were alcoholics, severe alcoholics. What I didn't know is that her father had left the family when she was 2 years old. In fact, actually her mother had thrown her father out of the house and told him not to come back because her mother knew all the police captain had said if he came back, she'd have him arrested. And if he contacted Mariah, she'd have him arrested. So what I didn't know was that her mother then told Mariah, when she was young, that her father was a bum living in the Bowery of New York, when in fact he was an insurance adjuster living in an apartment in the Lower East Side. What I didn't know was that Mariah's mother used to send her down to some of the department stores in Philadelphia on the train with a credit card to buy her mother's clothes for her at 7 years old because her mother was obese and ashamed to go into a store and buy her own clothes. What I didn't know was that her mother rented a room to some Villanova students because she was right near Villanova University, and have sort of alcohol-driven parties there with the students. Not anything sexual or anything like that. It was all alcohol, all driven by alcohol. And the students used to come up to her room and bang on Mariah's door and say, come down to the party. And she was scared to death as a young kid and learned how to take a chair and put a chair under the doorknob to try to protect herself, from that. What I didn't know was that her father died when she was 20 years old. And I'd like to now read you something that Mariah wrote about her father, about learning about how her father died. It was a holiday, July 4th, 1968. I was outside in the driveway talking to the neighbors when my mother came out and put her arm around me. That was one of the only times she ever did that. And she said, "Honey, your daddy died." I never ever heard the word daddy. That was my first thought, daddy? I have a daddy? And she said that she got word that he had died and someone had to claim his body at the morgue in New York City. I immediately said that I would go. So Mariah drove up to New York that same day. And she went to the address that her mother had given her because she knew his address of her father. Knocked on the door, met the landlord, and told the landlord who she was and asked if she could see his apartment. And he said fine, and so they walked up a couple flights of steps to his apartment. And she told me that right before she went into the apartment, that she felt like out of sorts. You know, it was strange. She's getting ready to walk into the apartment, the home basically of the man that she never knew. So she went into his apartment and for some reason guided herself into the bedroom where there was a chest of drawers there. And so she went to the chest of drawers, opened up the top drawer of the chest of drawer, and inside was an envelope. And on the outside of the envelope it said, "Mariah's first haircut." And inside the envelope was a lock of her red hair. Also inside the drawer was her high school graduation picture. She was stunned, absolutely stunned. And she told me later that she felt a sort of a seismic shift in her identity. You know, after years of having an inner voice saying that I'm not thin enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not pretty enough, no man will ever love me. It all dissolved. She went from being an abandoned child to a lost and treasured one. And it changed her life. Changed her life. And what I also didn't know was that she made a promise to herself at that time that she was going to help her mother. Because she loved her mother. Her mother actually loved her, and she knew that. So she developed a plan. Here was the plan. One day when her mother had been drinking, she went to her mother and she said, "Mom, I want to take you to a really terrific hotel," because she knew her mother liked really nice hotels. She said, "But when you come there, you have to be really good because all the people are there really nice. You have to sign whatever they need to sign." And so she went to this nice hotel, and her mother signed everything in and did all that, and that was all fine and dandy. And then she told her mother that she'd meet her for breakfast the next morning, then went home. Well, next morning she got a call from the place that said, "You better not come here today," because her mother is really pissed. So, as you probably have guessed, but it was an alcohol rehab center in Wawa, Pennsylvania. And oh, by the way, there is a Wawa, Pennsylvania. And it worked. For 25 years, her mother never drank again until she died. It worked. And I look at that as actually one of Mariah's first healings. We were really good for one another. You know, it was a love story. Hello, oh, Mariah, how are you? How's Florida treating you? Oh, what's wrong? Okay, we'll handle that. Let's get you home, and we're going to handle that, and it's going to be fine. All right, love you, and I'll talk to you later. All right, good, bye-bye. The conversation was much longer than that. Much longer than that. I'm going to take you back just a little bit. Mariah was a racquetball player. Recently, in playing racquetball, her hand had cramped around the racket. And it was very painful. If you ever got like a Charlie horse type thing, that's what it was. And then she had to pull her fingers off of the racket. And that was painful. So she came home and told me about this, and I said, okay. And she said, well, it's probably just one of those things. You know, stuff happens and you just let it go. It's a one-time shot, and that's what it is. But now she was in Florida, and she was at an executive coaching conference. And she was at dinner with some people who she met there, and her hand cramped around the fork. So she put her hand under the table and tried to pull the fingers off of her hand. And now she was scared. So I told her, let's deal with it very quickly when she got home, which is what we did. So she came home, and she called a friend of hers who was a neurologist. And he was good about it. He very quickly got her into the hospital where he worked and set her up for a battery of tests. So she was in there that day, and they were doing test after test after test, and they're all coming back negative. Oh my goodness, we're in great shape. Everything's good, you're fine, you're absolutely fine. And so they were doing even more tests, and finally it was evening, and I went home, and she stayed in a hospital room, and I came back the next morning and was in the hospital room with her. And when I was in the hospital room, the chairman of her friend came back with the chairman of the Department of Neurology of the hospital. And so because of protocol, they asked me to leave the room. We weren't married. And so they needed to talk with her. So I walked across the little hallway thing and sat there, and for maybe a half hour I'm waiting, 45 minutes, I don't remember, it's so long ago, but so then I saw the chairman and her friend leave. And when they left the door open about this wide, and I could hear Mariah crying. So I ran into the room, and she's sitting on the edge of the bed, and she's crying. And I said, and I don't know. So I said, what's wrong? What's happening? And she said, in a sort of a staccato voice, and crying, and it was hard to get it out. She said, they told me that I was going to die within 2 years. And so I just pulled her close to me and held her, and that's all I could do. And then, you know, she couldn't even remember the name of what it was, whatever it was. I found out later what they actually told her in the bed, in the hospital room at that time was this. Now, they probably said it nicer than I will say it right now, but they told her, you have amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Within 2 years, you will lose all motor function. You won't be able to move, or you won't be able to talk. There is no known cause, and no known cure, and no treatment for it. You have a 10% chance of living 2 years. So we sat in the bed, and she was crying, of course. And at some point, I pulled back from her and said, Mariah, do you feel like you're dying? She said, no, I don't, not in the least. I don't feel like I'm dying. I said, well, then don't plan on it. I said, in my opinion, the doctors have their specialties and they sort of put everyone in one box, and that could be happening here. So I said, listen, I know you, you know you're not dying. Put your clothes on, we're getting out of here. And she looked at me, and she did. She started putting her clothes on. And I saw this other paperwork on the table, and I looked at it. Well, we left, I guess, against medical advice. I'm assuming the doctors are coming back. But I want to share with you something that Mariah said right after that as we left the hospital. That evening, this is Mariah, that evening we had dinner reservations to celebrate Ron's birthday. It was June 30th. And as planned, we drove from the hospital to New Hope, Pennsylvania. The thought that the diagnosis could not be right kept circling in my head. If it were true, I'd feel something. I trusted my body and my instincts enough to believe that I would know in some way if I were imminently going to die. Yet the possibility was now quite real. The restaurant, Carla's, was one of those small, hip little places with modern furniture, abundant plant life, and open, airy seating. So waiting for our meals and no longer able to hold it in, I felt I needed to say what was in my heart. I told Ron that I was not the woman I had been in the morning, and that I would totally understand if he wanted to alter any plans that we had. Ron simply said that it would not be like him to turn his back on me, and that he believed he knew me, that I was healthy, and that I should not plan on dying. I promised that I wouldn't. Then he asked me for my hand across the small table and pulled out a paper Macanudo cigar band and put it on my finger. Mariah, he said, will you marry me? I was so stunned, I again felt like I got the wind knocked out of me, this time in a joyful way. Of course I will, I said inside. Of course I will. You're the man I want to be with. Then the words finally came out. Yes, Ron Gladis, I will marry you. I would love to marry you. And then we cried. When, I asked. Soon, I replied. He replied. When, I asked again. October, he said. Let's get on with life. Some bracing in my body that I hadn't known existed took a big exhale of relief. Mariah got a death sentence and a marriage proposal in the same day. What a day that was. It really was. But nothing really prepares you for the moment when someone says you're going to die. Nothing. Your world gets changed. It gets spun upside down. You know, everything that, Mariah had worked for, she was now a well-respected therapist. She finally met someone maybe she could spend her life with. It's all out the window. It's all gone. And so every night, in the middle of the night, she would wake me. And she would ask, are you sure? Are you sure, she would say. And I would say, yes, absolutely, positive. You're going to be okay. You really are. She needed to do the work for her own healings. I had to be the rock for her at that time. I had to be. And in the beginning, it wasn't easy. I mean, listen, a 10% chance of living doesn't hold much room for anything to happen. That doesn't allow for very much. So she depended on me, and I knew that. And I didn't know what I was talking about. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I don't know those things. But in my gut, I knew that she would be okay. And that I've always been like that. That attitude, that refusal to succumb to what our fate was supposed to be, is what we later called sacred denial. We were going to go forward in our life. The next stage is waiting. We didn't know anything about this disease. When was it supposed to start? Your finger hurts? You have a headache? Is that the beginning? My foot hurts? I don't know. We didn't know when it starts. When does that slow start to asphyxiation where your lungs can't breathe anymore? When does that begin? So we knew that we needed to get more information. So we went out and we set out to get more information. And now we had just been diagnosed by one of the best neurologists in Philadelphia. So now we went to Johns Hopkins. 10% chance of living 2 years. Okay. Let's go to the Cleveland Clinic. 10% chance of living 2 years. All right, let's go to Mass General. 10% chance. I mean, were they all reading from the same book? Some were kind. Most were kind of brutal. Most were saying, go home and eat ice cream. Go home and eat ice cream, which is not what we wanted to hear. That didn't fit with what we were looking for. We were looking for a doctor that had hope written across his forehead. That's really what we were looking for. So we set out on our own to find some hope. And we found a man who had ALS for 7 years. 7 years. 7 years was a lifetime for us. So we met the man, we went and had lunch with him, and it turns out that he was a dentist, and he was diagnosed. He quit his practice, went out to live in Colorado, lived in a cave or something, I don't know. And then after a while said, hey, I'm okay. He came back and opened up his dentistry practice again. That gave us hope. That gave us a knowledge that there's a way, that everything wasn't set in stone. That there was a possibility, and that's really what we were looking for. We needed hope to go forward. And oh, by the way, we're getting married. So all of those things that you would normally think that would cause your head to explode, those things, invitations and people and everything else, they were hope for us. That was great. That was great for us. That kept us alive. We wrapped ourselves in that. And so 3 months after getting this horrendous diagnosis, on October the 10th of 1981, Mariah and I were married in a small little church on the Villanova campus. And it was glorious. I mean, I was so happy for Mariah. I was so happy for me. I had kept my promise, and she had kept hers. She was alive. Surprise, she's pregnant. The doctors had told us previously, don't do that. Don't do that, and I understood that in a way, but Mariah and I saw we didn't see any signs of ALS. We didn't see any progression of ALS in the 3 months, that we were together. And we said, you want to go for it? And I said, I'll go for it. And she said, she'll go for it. And so, much to the concern of the medical community, we conceived our son Luke on our wedding night. So, it was our wedding night. So during the pregnancy, Mariah began to feel that she even more optimistic about her ALS symptoms because nothing was happening. So I was in the birthing room when she had Luke. I was in, I think it was an operating room or whatever. And when they gave Luke to Mariah, I mean, the look on her face was the happiest I had ever seen her, ever. That was a moment for her to fulfill, to become a mother, to change what had happened to her. She wanted to really be a good mother. And oh, by the way, it gave me an opportunity to be a father, which was really, really good for me. So we were thinking that maybe somewhere down the road, about a year later, we said, we'd like another child. Mariah was an only child, and so we decided maybe that wasn't the best idea. So let's have another child. And by the way, but Mariah was learning that she could be a mother. She could nurse her baby. She could hold her baby. She could hold her baby up in the air and giggle with it and laugh and that sort of stuff. And she could do it. And there were no changes. There were no changes. So we went ahead. And then we had Cole. And when Cole was born, Cole was sweet, adorable, and magnetic. It was unbelievable. And Mariah and I fell in love all over again with Cole. And with Cole, it gave her even more of an incentive to feel that she was going to live. It was so important for that to happen. We were creating a life for ourselves, and Cole had given us, our children had given us hope to go forward. So fortunately, in the 80s and 90s, 1980s and 1990s, Mariah was doing really, really well. And not many people knew she had ALS. So for the next 15 years, Mariah became this kind of prominent, renowned therapist. She was giving personal growth workshops around the country. Her reputation was growing, and then she began getting awards for her work even. So I want to tell you, I can't give you all of the awards, I don't have the time, but I will tell you one award that she got. And this award was for it was called the Living Legacy Award, given by the Women's International Center in San Diego, California. Now, I will tell you that the Living Legacy Award, I'll tell you some previous winners of it. One was Eleanor Roosevelt, one was Maya Angelou, and Mother was Mother Teresa, and the other, Mother Teresa. Now, I was married to Mariah, so I know she was no Mother Teresa, so I know that. So, and then she managed to write that well-received book, Tales of a Wounded Healer, all while under the throes of ALS, if you will. She had so much energy and a zest for living that it was absolutely contagious.
A grateful woman to sing a grateful song. It takes a grateful woman to sing a grateful song. It takes a grateful woman to sing a grateful song. I'm grateful now. Everybody grateful, Lord.
And such an extraordinary therapist, and everyone recognized her skill, that the skill that came from the heart. And I have, ever since I knew her, I was in awe of her capacity for compassion and caring for her clients. And I could stand here all day and talk about Mariah, the therapist, but I do want to mention one moment, one time that I've never forgotten. We were living in Langhorne, and she gave a workshop across the river somewhere in New Jersey. I don't remember where it was. And on a typical workshop, there may be 35, 40 people there, and maybe Mariah will work individually with maybe 15 or 16 or 17 in front of the group. That's how our workshops went. So at this time, a man came, sat next to Mariah, and Mariah said, "What's important?" And he said, I'm not feeling good about my relationship with my wife lately, and to be honest with you, I'm feeling a little depressed too. And the man sat there, and he sort of was like this and quiet in some ways. His voice was quiet. And so Mariah said, "Well, what else is going on in your life?" And he said, "Well, I just learned recently about that my father died. And he had been sick for 6 months beforehand, and I didn't get a chance to spend any time with him or talk to him. And he lived in Austria. His father lived in Austria. And he felt really badly about that." So Mariah asked him about his father and his relationship, and he said, well, he loved his father. He remembered being with his father and telling him stories and sitting at his father's feet and listening to his father's favorite music, which was the Blue Danube Waltz. And so Mariah said to him, so had him stand up, and she had one of our assistants bring out a mattress, and then asked someone from the group if they would volunteer to be her father, his father. And so this man lay down on the mattress as his father, and she asked the man here if he would go over to the mattress and talk to his father and tell him everything he wanted to tell him, everything, good, bad, or ugly, just tell him. And then Mariah asked the man's wife, who was with him, to go up and sit next to him while he was doing that, talking to his father. So the man sat there, and he kneeled down next to the mattress and began talking to his father. It was wonderful. It was very powerful. He was telling him how much he loved him, how much he hated him at times, and how much but his father meant to him. He got the opportunity to really share with his father what he was feeling, since he didn't have the opportunity to do that. And while he was there, Mariah walked over to me quietly and said, "Do we have the Blue Danube Waltz?" And I said, "Yeah, we do," because Mariah liked to use music in her work. She felt that music was a pathway to the soul, So Mariah asked him if he would dance with his wife. And all of a sudden, he's dancing around the floor with his wife. They're waltzing. It was beautiful to do. And then Mariah asked everyone in the room if they would waltz. So they all came out, and they're all waltzing around this big room. What a visual. They were just waltzing all around the room. Like, it was absolutely, it was wonderful. it was magical. It was a magical moment. It was absolutely magical. Absolutely magical. But it wasn't magic. It was Mariah. It was Mariah as a grounded Gestalt therapist with all the principles she knew, bringing into one man that she wanted to make sure had a really great experience. You know, Mariah was a great therapist. And she brought to that moment, I mean, listen, what she did here, this man came in and she did 3 things that I picked up. There might have been more. This man was crouched like this. He was small. You know, he was depressed, and all of a sudden he's waltzing around the whole room with a smile on his face. The energy of waltzing around the room. And then with his wife, who he felt distance from. And now he and his wife are smiling and dancing and waltzing all around the room. And the man also got a chance to talk to his father, to tell him everything, to get rid of all the unfinished business that he had from his past with his father. No, it wasn't magical. It wasn't magical, but it was magic. You know, it was magic, absolute magic. It was absolute magic. So one of the things, you know, some people ask me is that, how do you guys do this? How did you make a life? Years ago, Mariah was giving one of her workshops in New Jersey, and a man came up and sat in the same seat as I was talking to you about. And Mariah asked him what's important, and he said that he had just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the room went into a hush. And so she asked him, well, what did he need about that? He said what he needed was he needed only good people around him. He needed good conversations. He needed good food. He needed to watch good movies. And he needed to love completely. And I looked at him, and I had so much compassion for that man at the moment because I understood him. I knew exactly where he was. Because this is what we had been doing for a long time now. We had decided what the values were to be around us as we dealt with this whole ALS thing. We wanted to have the same kind of life he did. We didn't want any sharp edges around us. We wanted no drama around us. That was going to help us with our healing to go forward. And of course, we wanted good food, good movies, and good conversations, and to love completely. We were creating a safe space for ourselves. We felt that was really, really important for what we were having to deal with. Now, the other thing is important is caregiving in that relationship. In the beginning, Mariah was really very good. She was walking and talking and doing everything. It was not a problem. But over time, she began losing her hand, her strength in her hand, and maybe in her legs. And so I began jumping in a little more and more as time went on. And we had a lot of really good aides over the years who helped as well. But I was sort of the main caregiver for Mariah. So the beginning was somewhat easy for me, I should say that, because you know, Mariah would walk over to me. She said, well, excuse me, Ron, would you mind buttoning my button? And I said, okay, I'll button your button. And then maybe 3-4 months later, she said, well, could you button the second button? Then 6 months later, could you button the third button? And before I knew it, I'm putting her clothes on. It was that slow. And when it happens that slow, it was just really easy for me. But make no mistake, caregiving is not very easy. Caregiving can be really very, very hard and very, very difficult because you're now giving up yourself for another human being completely. I mean, you have to be there for everything, for every need they have, every want they have, every problem, every pain, whatever they have, you have to be there for them. And that part is not easy at all. It's a constant. There's no kudos for it. No one's standing there clapping when you do it. But you have to do it. You're there for them. And I remember one time, Mariah, there was some particular things with Mariah as an ALS patient. One is choking. I mean, Mariah used to choke in any place. It could be at a workshop sometime. It scared the heck out of some people. But we knew how to handle it, and we did that. But one time we were at Esalen Institute where Mariah gave workshops out in California, and we were in our bedroom, and she started choking. And so, I figured I knew how to handle this. And I would take a tissue and wipe the phlegm out of the top roof of her mouth. Generally that worked, but it didn't. And she kept on choking, and she couldn't catch her breath. And so I pulled my chair up next to her, and I sat right in front of her, and I locked in eye to eye, and I coached her through for maybe 15, 20 minutes. It felt like an eternity, because she could have died right then and there. I was saying to her, breathe slowly. I'm here for you. Take your time. Make it happen. I mean, there was not much else to do. Esalen is about an hour from nowhere. There was nowhere to go from there. And she trusted me, and that felt so terrific because we locked eyes, and she's there choking to death, and she's locking eyes with me and listening to everything I'm saying. But it was really somewhat of a traumatic moment, and a moment, as you can see, that I won't forget. There are those moments from a caregiving standpoint. And then one time, after a long night, for some reason I was up a lot and I was tired and trying to take care of her, whatever. And she had to go to the bathroom, I'm sorry, this was in the morning. And I got her up in the morning, and I took her into the bathroom and then combed her hair, put some clothes on and stuff like this, and did it. And I was out of it. I absolutely was out of it. But I had to do it, and you do it. And she turned to me, she said, "Ron, you haven't washed my face." I said, "Mariah, you're beautiful. You don't need your face washed." I was out of it. I really was. And certainly I washed her face, but I couldn't believe how out of it I was. My face was flushed, and I was, caregiving can really take a lot out of you. It's not an easy thing to do. But I had the philosophy about taking care of Mariah where she was what I call precious cargo. So in the middle of the night, if I'd be walking her to the bathroom or something, and I had my hands under her armpits, I'm behind her, we're kind of walking like this, I had to keep on repeating the phrase precious cargo because I just got up in the middle of the night. My brain's not set. I had to convince myself I wasn't going to let her do a face plant in the middle of the night. That's going to happen on my watch. It just was not going to happen. So there's a lot to be, what has to happen there. And then there is here's the major problem with the caregiving. And this can cause a divorce. I'm going to tell you right now. It's putting on makeup. So I had to learn all those terms. I had to learn blush and foundation and rouge and eyeliner and all those things. I had to learn those things. And then for example, there might not be an aide with us on a particular night, so we're going to a party, and now she's dressed to the nines, right? And I've got to put this stuff on her eyes, and I'm going like this. Like, that's not an easy thing to do for a guy, I don't know. So that could definitely lead to divorce. But when all said and done, she was really very good about it. But caregiving is a minute-to-minute thing, but that's really important if you're going to go forward in life, especially for a disease like that. It's something really important. And then another way that we handle it is with humor, and I think you could tell some of that already. Humor is so important because for me, I think humor was good because it allowed me to put my brains in my back pocket and do what I had to do. And that's what I do and move forward. So I'm going to give you my quirky sense of humor. Here's my quirkiness. So we were in Ireland after a workshop, and we were traveling. We went to the little town of Knock, Ireland. And in Knock, Ireland, there was an apparition by the Virgin Mary. So we stopped into the Church of Knock, and we were there, and we just got there. There happened to be a mass just starting, so I asked Mariah, "You want to stay?" She said, "Sure." So we stayed. We were in the back of the church. At that time, Mariah was actually still walking. But we carried a wheelchair with us, a manual wheelchair, because she was going to get tired. So I wheeled her in, and we're in the back of the church, and the priest comes out at one point and says, listen, this is a mass for the healing. Anyone who really needs healing, would you please come up? So I wheeled Mariah up to the altar, and they actually did a very good job. They prayed over her, they laying on of hands, they did laying on of hands, they anointed her with oils. It was really a nice job. And so when we're done, I walked to the back of church, and we're back there. And when the mass was over, we're the first ones out because we're in the back. So I wheeled around. I'm about 30 feet outside the church when I walked around the front of Mariah. I said, Mariah, people are streaming out of the church now, right? They're leaving. And I said to Mariah, I said, stand up and walk toward me. She said, what? I said, stand up and walk toward me. And I said, they'll put a monument to you right here, at this spot right here. She chickened out. She would not do it. She chickened out. She would not do it. She didn't have the guts to do it. But then even Mariah got into it. Mariah got into it.
He's really doing this.
How much fun can you have with ALS?
How much fun can you have with ALS? You know, early on, Mariah began saying that ALS made her a better person. And then began to talk about why it made her a better person. And I began to understand that. I didn't understand that at first, but I began to understand that. And then I said to myself, you know, ALS made me a better person as well. And so what she did was we actually wrote down some of the things that she was feeling about ALS, that it gave her wisdom. It gave her knowledge and experience in the world that she could impart to her clients, because she was still seeing clients all this time. She was still seeing clients. So I want to read to you some of the things that Mariah wrote down. And I'm calling it wisdom from ALS. I'm not as arrogant as I was. I'm not as impatient as I was. I don't have the time for small things or small people. I know what's important and what's not important. I now have the courage to say what needs to be said. I have a perspective of how it is possible to live a magnificent life, even if we are infinitely flawed or wounded. It is a knowing and acknowledging the way that I show up, warm and wonderful one moment and bitchy the next, generous to a fault one day and stingy the next, thoughtless one time and caring later, and then hold all of those. I learned the importance of forgiveness, the little things, as well as the seemingly unforgivable. I have a heightened awareness of and presence in the here and now, which is what is most important. One of the other areas that we felt that led to her longevity was something that we call arriving already loved. Arriving already loved. It was so foundational for us. What does that mean? Well, arriving already loved means that no matter where you go, you arrive there loved by yourself. And if you fall down, that you're the first person there to pick yourself back up again. You carry with you in your body, your heart, your soul, this compassionate relationship for yourself. When Mariah was first diagnosed, she knew that she needed to love herself. No beating herself up, no more of that. for whatever reason, she needed to love herself. She knew that by giving herself the best opportunities, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, eating the right foods, exercising, taking care of herself, loving her life, giving herself what she needed, and loving herself at any particular moment was really, really important. And so here's a small example of Mariah loving herself. You know, by arriving already loved anywhere, you know, Mariah and I believe that we had enormous impact on the quality of our life. And also to create the infinite possibilities for what we needed. And also to create the miracles that we needed. And right now, Mariah was one of those miracles. Well, it was bold, it was defiant, and it was productive. And it worked. It was what Mariah and I called sacred denial. Sacred denial was a refusal for us to cooperate with the prevailing ideas, concepts, or what someone said, or maybe what someone read in a book, or what was normal. We refused to cooperate with that. We both chose to refuse to hold the prognosis and warnings that were given by the doctors as if they were set in stone. They were not. I mean, we knew from the outset that our challenge was to go forward and live a good life, while at the same time holding open the possibility of an early death. We knew that. So we were able to hold both of those things. And that was important for us. So we went forward in so many areas of our life because of sacred denial. To us, it was sacred to have hope. To us, it was sacred to give life. To us, it was sacred to deny the diagnosis. Sacred denial was holy to us. I was always stunned by the courage and the strength of Mariah as she continued to go forward with hope and passion in many ways. Our most important challenge was not battling ALS. It wasn't. Our most important challenge was developing the inner capacity to bring light to the darkness of hopelessness. To bring light to the darkness of hopelessness. A giant leap into marriage and then having 2 sons was life-giving for us. It was the best thing that we ever did, because hope ignites action. You know, it is the engine of healing. It is sacred denial in action. You know, and that included being willing to make creative adjustments in our life, you know, to make our life normal, which is what we were looking to do all the time. Anyone who has had the experience of taking a handicapped person into an airplane bathroom knows what I'm talking about. We had to make creative adjustments all the time, and that was certainly one of them. But we told our friends and our family and our doctors, give us hope. We want the good news. Always give us the good news. Tell us someone who was successful. Let us know that. Don't worry about giving us false hope, because hope in and of itself we felt was curative. Mariah would tell you that without hope, she would not have been able to live as long as she did. Her heart would have not been into the journey. Early in Mariah's life, her passion was horses. One day while she was in the ring, trying to jump a jump higher than she had ever done before. Her trainer, Bill Duffy, sensing her fear, yelled across the ring, "Mariah, throw your heart over the fence and the horse will follow." Throw your heart over the fence and the horse will follow. Sacred denial. So as the years went on, we kept very busy as a family unit. Mariah was becoming more and more sought after as a therapist. I was now the owner of a video and film production company. The boys were in school and going on soccer teams and growing up to be men. And it was very hectic and very good. Very hectic and very good. And then gradually it happened. All those things that they had talked about and told us about were going to happen began to happen in slow motion. Her hands, her fingers stopped working. Her hands stopped working. Her arms stopped working. You know, all these things were taken away. Her strength, you know, her agility, her independence was being taken away slowly. All of this was happening under cover of time. And there were constant thoughts of the children, you know, and leaving the children. Now, they weren't children anymore, of course, but the idea was the same. And I want to show you a video of an interview I took with Mariah, which when the kids were younger, but the thought and the concern was still the same. Mothers will understand this.
They're giving me a 10% chance of surviving a half year to 2 years. I did not, in my heart and soul, believe them. My worst fear is hurting my children.
You know, with all the workshops she gave and all the places we traveled to and all the clients she saw, this was her existence. Every night sleeping, every day having lunch, every day bathing, every day hair brushing, every day small talking. This was Mariah's existence. ALS. She wanted to be normal. She wanted to cook for her family. I mean, she wanted to walk on the beach and hold hands. She wanted to drive herself. Heck, she just wanted to get up from the chair by herself. And she couldn't. She couldn't do this. And yes, we knew that there would be more losses along the way. And there were more losses along the way. Her feet would lose muscle, balance became an issue, and even her tongue began having a hard time wrapping itself around words. But, through it all, through all the choking, through all of the broken fingers and broken bones and all the hospital visits and all the rehabs we went through, we found a way of making it happen. We found a way, nothing was going to stop us. We found a way of making our life normal. We had a vision of what we wanted in our life, and we were going to make that vision happen. We were going to have some successes. Don't forget, Mariah was told not to have children. So we went ahead and had two boys, which I'm so happy about because I now have 2 boys. I have 2 grandchildren who are the best grandchildren in the entire world that no one ever, it's the most beautiful girls I've ever seen. And their amazing mother. They told Mariah not to exercise. So she went to the gym 5 days a week. It felt natural to her. You've got to keep your muscles going. She would get up, she would have to see a client in the morning, and then in the afternoon, she would go to the gym and then come back and see a client and then come up and have dinner. Mariah was told that diet and nutrition would not help her. So she developed a regimen of organic foods. supplements, vitamins. Every day we did vegetable juicing. And she even did wheatgrass juicing every day. And they told her not to go into the water, to swim. She loved snorkeling. We did that all the time. And then she went to Machu Picchu in Peru and had a workshop there with 30 people. And they told her not to go because at 10,000 feet, the altitude would not be good for her. And she loved it. We were traveling, we were going to birthday parties, we were seeing people and having friends over and raising children. Life was normal. We were creating a normal. This was our sacred denial. We were creating normal however we could make that normal. And in her 36th year with ALS, she gave a TED Talk to 1,200 people in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We were doing it. We were absolutely doing it. So for 37 years, we lived off those approaches. And they were very successful. You know, people with ALS normally live between 2 and 4 years and then out. It's a horrendous disease. It's a terrible disease, absolutely terrible disease. But I know that the unconditional hope that we had and the love that we had got us through that. I know it. I absolutely know it. I mean, we didn't have the answer. We didn't have any answers. But we knew that in our gut that this is what we needed to do. We needed to take care of ourselves and go forward. So in February of 2018, Mariah went into the hospital, and there was some complications internally, and so she needed to have an operation. So she came out of the hospital, we went home, and very shortly, she said, I want to see clients again. Okay. So we did that. So she saw clients again. And then in June of 2018, she did a workshop in Cape May, New Jersey, with 45 people. It was an absolute unbelievable workshop. And so I remember asking Mariah at one point, I said, Mariah, why do you go on? I mean, why do you continue? Why do you go on?
Why would you go on? I mean, do you feel like giving up at times?
There were times, sure, I feel like giving up. I don't want to be a burden to my family. And for the same reason, I want to go on with my family and me. My life and everything in it. I really love living, and as long as I'm contributing in life, I want to go on. When I can no longer contribute, I want to say, time's up.
When I can no longer contribute, I want to say, time's up. So later that month, while I was making her breakfast, before she was seeing clients that day, believe it or not, she asked me to take her to the ER. And I did that, and she knew something was wrong. So after, again, we spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and it was all pain, sedation, x-rays, repeat for 3 weeks. They couldn't figure out what was going on with Mariah. No one could figure it out. And so it was 7 a.m. on July 7th. I usually get up a little earlier than that because I want to catch the doctors on their early rounds. I need to talk with them. Actually, I was trying to get her transferred to Johns Hopkins at the time. And so I'd normally get up early to try to get them. But I had a very difficult night that night, and so did she. in the middle of the night, she would wake me, and of course, pushing a button for the nurses at that time of night, you don't really get someone so easily. And so I do, you know, as a caregiver, you do what you need to do for her. And she was uncomfortable, so the way she would lay there on her side, kind of, she wanted me to change her, so I'd have to go and I'd sort of pull her hips up like this, and I have to shift her arm under like this, and there's a certain little protocol I need to do with Mariah. And of course, then there are all these wires going up to a heart monitor and stuff like this, and I did that and shift her head over, and then I would lay down in one of those chairs that I've been in for 3 weeks, and then within 5 minutes she would wake me up again. And we must have done this, I don't know, 7 or 8 times. And I know it was exhausting for her, and I know it was really exhausting for me to do that. And finally, after about whatever time, she fell asleep, and then I fell asleep as well. And when I got up, I opened my eyes, and Mariah was looking straight forward. And Mariah was looking straight forward, but she was unseeing. And I never thought this would happen. I never thought this would happen. She was supposed to live forever. You know, our denial had come to an end, basically. And reality had set in. And I should have seen it coming. We both should have seen it coming, but the truth is, what we've done, we saw it coming, and I don't even know. So everything in my world got turned upside down. Everything. I lost her. I failed her. I mean, she was the most important person in my life, and my job for many years was to keep her going. And I failed her. Now, I know that's ridiculous, but that's how I felt at the moment, because I had no control over what was happening. I had no control. But I failed her. You know, I watched her for over 40 years give everything she had to every client that she had. She literally saved lives. She saved relationships. She saved families, all without complaining. All without complaining. Sometimes depleted, but never complaining. Never giving up hope, always giving what she had in her heart. And now there was silence for me. And I really didn't know how to handle it. It was the lowest I had ever been in my life. And then it got lower. 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with cancer and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a blood cancer. And same thing as, what happens now? What do I do? This is crazy. Cancer? Me? Cancer? Impossible. It can't be true. But I knew where it came from. That's interesting. I knew where it came from. Those last 6 months of our life were just traumatic. Coming home from the hospital with Mariah and all the things that she needed to do, and people coming over to the house and trying to get her to walk, trying to get her to eat, trying to get her to drink, setting up IV tubes. I had to give her IVs all the time. There were IV tubes all over the house. And meanwhile, I'm trying to take care of the household and finances and all the other things that you normally do in a household. And plus having to work with Mariah and all of her aides and taking care of her as best I could. It was crazy for both she and I. So I knew where it came from, and now reality had set in for me. I'm a sacred denial guy, and now reality has set in. What do I do? Well, I'm going to go with reality here. Now, some friends of mine who were alternative people would say, put some warm quinoa under your left armpit for a week. And that wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to go there. So right away, I got an operation. And then I had chemotherapy. And any of you know chemotherapy, I'm sure some people do here, it's brutal. I would get up from a chair and sometimes immediately look for another one to sit down on. And then a course of radiation treatment. It was tough. It was really tough for a long, long time. I didn't know how to handle it. I really didn't. PET scans every 6 months, doctor's appointments, taking blood all the time. I really didn't, I didn't know how to handle that, but it's been 7 years since Mariah died. And as it turns out, I'm getting back to me now. I'm getting back to who I am. Someone who's arriving already loved, because I always felt that, and also someone who totally believes in sacred denial. And my life is good. And I've learned so much about myself through this whole process. I've learned about what it takes to be a husband. I've learned about being a father. And I've learned about being a man. And I cannot tell you how happy I am right now with me. I really am. And through all of the good times, through all the bad times, through all the craziness we went through, I would do it all again. I would do it again. Why? Well, because there was successes there. There were triumphs there. We succeeded in what we were doing. And there was love there. I would do it again. We did it. Mariah, we did it. I am so proud of Mariah. I am so proud of Mariah. And I'm so proud of Mariah and Me, that combination that made that work. And right now, I'm also extraordinarily grateful to have 2 sons that are here with me today. And those incredible grandchildren, you know that, and their amazing mother. I'm still working with the Pennsylvania Gestalt Center. I'm still working, thank you. And I've got some wonderful colleagues there who are here today. It's really terrific. And so I'm very busy. I'm actually very, very busy. And so for now, my life is about being in the moment. I'm getting out and I've been traveling and I'm meeting new friends. I've been trying to meet new friends. And also, I've been learning Italian. And that's because after growing up in an Italian neighborhood in South Philly for all those years, I wanted to find out what they were talking about. So I'm savoring all these moments and really getting the sense of myself back. Now, I really am. And part of that sense of myself is being here, right now, with you. So, they say that love is hard to find. Sure found it hard to find mine. To love walked right up, she walked right up to my face. She said, you can only love what you die for, babe. So shed a little light, I can find you. Don't let the darkness hide your face. Shed a little light, I can find you. I'd surely die for your embrace. And so this, a perfect love can reveal that trouble can be hard on its heels. Till she walked right up, she stood right by my side. She said, if it's love or death, baby, there's no need to decide. So shed a little light, I can find you. Don't let the darkness hide your face. Shed a little light, I can find you. I'd surely die for your embrace. Shed a little light, that I can find you. Don't let the darkness hide your face. Shed a little light, I can find you. I'd surely die for your embrace. Join me for a chorus. Shed a little light, so I can find you. Don't let the darkness hide your face. Shed a little light, so I can find you. I'd surely die for your embrace. One more time. Shed a little light, so I can find you. Don't let the darkness hide your face. Shed a little light, that I can find you. I surely die for your embrace. 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 Thank you very much for being here. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Shed a little light. Shed some light out there. Thank you. 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 Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you.